Alright, so we've tightened this up a bit. Preload is higher. You can probably tell by the fact that it doesn't spin nearly as freely, and that's what we're aiming for. I know this technique for measuring torque in this case is a bit odd, but what I'm trying to do is, well, what I'm trying to avoid personally, spending a fair amount of money on a wrench that I'll really not use often, if ever again, and couldn't find anybody to borrow it from. Tried that route as well, and so, you know, to me it's kind of a poor man's, I guess, reasonable device. I think it's reasonable, and you know, it's what it is. Hopefully it's helpful to somebody. So we're gonna stand up on its side. We're gonna zero it. It bounces around 0.4 ounces or so, and then we're going to begin to apply force. And we're about, what was that? Let me try again, get where I can read it better. About 1 pound 7 ounces. It's varying by an ounce or so either way. Nope, I lied. About 1 pound 10 ounces. We'll go with 1 pound 10 ounces. So what we need to figure out is how much is 1 pound 10 ounces over 7 3/4 inches. That's my phone, hang on. So getting back to my phone, 1 pound 10 ounces is 1.625 pounds times 7.75 inches. That's basically 13 foot-pounds, 12.6, inch-pounds, excuse me, 12.6 inch-pounds. So I went and looked up the spec. It depends on who you want to believe. Ford says for new gears, or new bearings rather, you should have 16 to 28 inch-pounds. Yukon, Gear and Axle, maker of this pinion, maker of this ring gear, or the maker of this carrier, they recommend 14 to 19 inch-pounds. So we're going to go in the area where they overlap, so we're going to try not to exceed about 19 inch-pounds of force, of preload rather, and so that'll fit within the expectations of both Ford and Yukon. So right now we're a little under that. It's like I said, 12.5. So we're going to grab our breaker bar, and we're going to put it here in our plate, our holding plate. Just a set of videos on this holding plate, as well as the holder and the shim driver. If you've not seen those on my channel, they're there. Look them up. And it doesn't take much. Please don't over tighten. It won't be as big a deal right now. It's definitely tighter, but it will be a bigger deal when you're going in for your final install with your crush sleeve, with your new axle nut. You don't really want to, ever want to back off on preload on final install, and if you have to, the recommendation is you replace the axle nut and you replace the crush sleeve. So it's quite a hassle if you do over tighten it. So again, you're going to turn this thing up. You're going to zero it. You're going to put it against the end, roughly 90 degrees. And we're already over 2 pounds. Not my day. I failed to drill my hole to stop this thing from rotating over. And we're getting enough force to make it difficult. So. I'm getting about 2 pounds 9 ounces. So let's check that now. And multiply that by the distance. It's 2.56 pounds, 7.75. That's 19.85 19.86 inch-pounds of torque. Like I said, Yukon suggested 14 to 19, Ford suggested 16 to 28. So for now, we're going to stay right there. We're on the top side of Yukon's spec, actually, part of an inch-pound over, and we're definitely well within Ford's specification for preload. So I'm comfortable with that. It does turn, it turns smoothly, but it does turn stiffly, which is the intent of having preload. So I'm happy with that for the moment. We do our final install. This will be pretty tricky. We're going to be crushing the crush sleeve, and it just takes a bit more effort. So, all right, let's move on to the next thing, which is to flip this thing back upright and put in the carrier and ring gear shims, and start looking at the backlash. Once we have the backlash close, then we'll be able to check our pinion or our gear pattern, gear tooth pattern, and that'll begin to tell us now if our pinion shim is the correct size based on that pattern. So here we go. All right, so we've set the carrier assembly and ring gear down in here. Got the bearing braces on. And we've got to set a little shim pack here on the side. No specific dimension, just one that we'd used whenever we were setting the carrier preload, and clearly it's too tight, so we need to pull out this set of shims, reduce the thickness, and try again until we start to get some backlash here, which means basically the ring gear should move back and forth against the pinion. Just a touch. Right now we got nothing. It'll turn, but it absolutely has no backlash. So let's reduce the size of the shim pack. Okay, so we have the shim pack out. One thing you'll notice about these shims is one shim has got a lip on it, and it catches these other shims and keeps them as a pack. And so what we're going to do is we're going to reduce this. Right now we have two shims sandwiched in between, two smaller shims sandwiched in between two largers. We're just going to take one out for the moment. We're going to reinstall this. We're going to move the carrier all the way over, make sure, and see what kind of movement, if any, we have on this. We're over. We have basically still we have no preload, or very little. We have just a touch. Let's go ahead and put some shims in this side to fill that gap. So what we're going to use is, this is the shim pack we previously used, but because we wanted to keep our preload as it was, we're going to take the shim we took out of this side, we're going to put it into the other side, and that should give us basically the same preload as we had earlier. So we'll try to hold it together here. We'll go ahead and get this started into this slot, and then we're going to use our shim driver to begin to tap this down. We can actually begin tapping it down since it's so far out with just our dead blow. Get it started down in there. Pretty snug. We got a good preload on this thing for sure. Then we have this cut basically to the dimension of the shims. We put it on top of the shim pack. And drive the shim pack down in like that. May not quite be all the way down. There you go. Now we're way too tight right now. Well, let's say that. Let's see how much that is. It seems like it's probably too tight, but we need to find out. If it's too tight, then what we've got to do is move the ring gear this direction, or move the pinion that direction, and we don't know yet about the pinion. So we just start where we are. So let's talk about measuring backlash. When we measure backlash, we want to put a get it right here. We want to use a mic, which we're going to turn around. We're going to use a mic. Yep. And we're going to put the point of them, oh sorry, the gauge. We're going to put the point of it against this tooth. We're going to try to do it basically 90 degrees from the tooth as much as possible to get an accurate measurement. There it is. We're going to move it slightly forward. And then what we're going to see is, as we rock this thing, we're measuring backlash. We want to count thousandths of an inch between one position and the next. And what we're seeing right now is about, let's see, it's about 25 thousandths backlash. That's definitely too much. Let me go confirm from multiple sources how much backlash we want. I think it's in the 6 to 12, 6 to 14 range. But let me go double check that. And what that means is if we have too much backlash, which right now we do, then what we're going to do is we're going to have to move the pinion, move the ring gear this direction by putting thinner gauges, thinner shims in here, sliding it over ever so slightly. We're getting some rock in this thing, so let me. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at the setup on this thing. I'll get right back with you. Yeah, that's much better. Had the foot of this thing up on this bolt, and that was really throwing us off. So let's measure it again. So what we're seeing here, oh, it's an inexpensive mag base. Sorry guys. Get close to zero as we can, knowing that it's going to move without regard for what we do. Let's go from right there. So we're talking about 17 thousandths of an inch difference between in lash. So 17 thousandths. Again, let's go check our spec and then see where we're at. Okay, so we did some checking, and the expectation is Yukon Gear and Axle says 6 to 10. It says 6 to 10 on the backlash. Ford says 8 to 12. So we are going to go for the overlap, which is 8 to 10, and we'll be happy with anything around 6 to 12. I'm just resetting this a little bit. So looking at it, it's about 16, 15, 16. Again, we're just moving it, not moving the pinion, just moving this against the pinion. Now, one thing that will definitely change this is better seating of your braces and shims, and one way to do that is to go ahead and install these hold down blocks. So I know we're not there yet on backlash, but we're also very unsure about our pinion shim. So we're going to go ahead and leave it at the 15 for now and see what we get after we torque down these bearing yokes. And these bearing yokes, again, depends on who you want to believe. Yukon says 60 foot-pounds of torque. Ford says 90. So we're going to go, in this case, we're going to go with Ford spec 90, and go ahead and get this locked down at 90 pounds of torque. So for starters, we're going to buzz them down with our little hand impact. And then get our torque wrench. Our torque wrench is still set to 90. We used it just a while ago. So we're going to go ahead and torque these little guys down to 90 foot-pounds. Always fun on the engine stand. May knock you all around here. Let's see. Okay. Now let's see where we're at. See if it made a change. So there. So that's, say, 13 to 28. 13 to 28. So that's 15. So we're a little over our spec, but what I want to do now is look at the gear tooth pattern and see if we can predict if we are off on our pinion shim. If our pinion shim's off, and it likely is, then we're going to struggle. We're going to struggle to we have to take it all back apart. So there's no sweat and detailing the shims at this point. Let's just get it right first, and then we'll get the the pinion shim right or close to right, and then go from there. Now, in order to check this thing, we're going to use some gear tooth paint, which again is also provided. It's an iron oxide based paste, basically, that you apply to a few of the teeth with a small brush, also provided. One thing I liked about this was quite a nice little kit with all the pieces and parts pretty much that you require. Cut the end off of it. So I'm not sure how good you're going to be able to see this, but we're going to paint some of this nice little yellow stuff on here, and we start getting proper tooth patterns, or tooth patterns, we'll get you close where you can see better, but for now, we're just going to paint up a few teeth and start looking at these tooth patterns. The depth of the pattern, where the pattern falls as far as the toe, or excuse me, the heel or the toe, tells us a lot about what needs to change. So we've got a couple of teeth painted. and should be enough to start getting a picture of what's going on down inside there. So we're going to turn it. Turn the pinion. This is pretty snug right now. And they'll tell you want to do this with load. So how do you get load? I go forward, backward. And the only way I can think to load is some people do, they'll use a bar, they'll press. I'm just using some simple hand force here to keep the gears well engaged. So then we bring the gears up, and that is pretty dadgum close. Let me show you what it should look like, and then what this pattern is beginning to tell us. You can see, I'm not sure you can see here where maybe where the pinion teeth have rubbed against this marker paint and left a mark. You look at the opposite side, you'll also see here where it's left marks. That tells us where we're at relative to success. Get you better pictures of this in just a minute. Let me go look at, let me go get the key to help us understand this. Okay, first thing we need to establish is which of these, which side of the teeth is what's called the coast side and which side is called the drive side. And we're going to begin by trying to move this over a little bit. There we go. So that you can better see what's going on here. So if you'll look, one of these sides is concave, shaped this way. One of them's convex, shaped outwardly. The concave or convex portion, this portion, this is the drive side. The convex portion, or excuse me, the concave portion, that is the coast side. So hopefully you can see that on the concave or convex portion, the portion you see here, the drive side, that the pattern, point to it a little bit, the pattern is pretty much in the center. You can see from here to about here, here to about here. It's pretty much in the center of the tooth. That's what we're aiming to get. Now if we go and look at the opposite side, hopefully you can see it. This is the coast side, this is the concave side. You'll see that our gear pattern is a bit closer to the toe. It starts away from the toe, but only a little, and then it comes up to about here. So you see it starts down here, goes up to about here. So what we're seeing is that on the coast side, our pattern is closer to the toe, this portion, whereas on the drive side, the pattern is pretty well centered up, which is ultimately what we're aiming for. Again, we've got too much backlash, we've got a lot yet to do, so this is just a starting point. Pretty close to center here, so we know where we are. So then if we go to a reference, there's a number of references out there on the internet. I've got my tablet here, and I'm just going to hope you can see it. There's all the glare off the lights, but the drive contact pattern, you notice it here in the paint, you notice it here on the coast side. So if we are, let me look at this as well. If we are close to center on the toe or on the drive side, but we're closer to the toe. This is toe heel contact. What we've got is closer to a toe-toe contact, close enough. Contact pattern on the drive side, convex of the tooth, is mostly toward the toe. Mostly toward the toe. Incorrect. Ring gear backlash. What that's saying is that we must be pretty close on our pinion shim, which is exceptional. If the pinion shim was out, then we would see a different pattern. If you see toe heel, in other words, one of them's here on the toe and the other one's up on the heel, or heel toe, or one of them's up on the heel and one of them's way down the toe on the coast and drive side, that will tell you that your pinion gear needs to be moved closer or further away. In our case, it's saying we must be pretty close. So we're supposed to be pretty close on the pinion shim. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on getting our backlash right and hope that we end up where we want to be. So pretty good so far. Let's see where we land from here. We're going to go ahead and start adjusting pinion shims to take out that 15 what was it, 15 thousandths, 16 thousandths, whatever it was that we had in backlash, and tighten that up to something closer to what was it we were going for? Yeah, 8 to 10. So we're going to take out about 6 thousandths, 7 thousandths of backlash. Now, they tell you that to take out 7 thousandths of backlash, you need to make a 10 thousandths adjustment in shim. So that's what we're going to target to do next. We're going to break these bearing yokes back off and start manipulating shims. We'll do it with you.